Hey guys, welcome again to Bow Hunting Soul. All right, real quick video here. I was going to mention this in one of the other videos, but I'm going to make a separate video on it. I just did a video on the today. Actually, I've done a bunch of videos. I've done one on the Elkhart. I did one, a kind of update on the Black Hunter here. This one is, I'm just going to title this like, you can't have it both ways. Okay, meaning for tuning. Okay, anybody that's struggled with tuning, especially with something that doesn't have an elevated rest, or you know, that's kind of hard to tune, or a big wide shelf or something like that, right? It gets harder and harder to do, and the more I guess the tighter the shelf is, okay, the harder it is going to be to tune. Now, we talked about this with the Elkhart in the previous video, which I'm not sure if it's going to release before this one or not. Same with the ASL, right? They don't really have a very big shelf. The smaller the shelf, the harder it is to tune it, because there's a narrower range of spines and tip weights and all that stuff that you can use effectively, right? So you can't have it both ways. You can't have an arrow, my opinion, okay, for the average person. And if you're not the average person, you're probably not listening to this anyway, because you're probably a very successful competition shooter. The average person, right, including me, wants, like, man, I want an arrow that's like super forgiving and, you know, given the chosen bow, okay? We're talking about just arrows. It's super forgiving, but I want it forgiving, and I want it to fly perfect when I do everything right and I come to full draw, and whatever your thing is, whether you come to full draw and touch feather to nose, or whether you come to anchor corner of mouth and you let go, you know, your release is the same every single time, and you put the same amount of draw into the bow every single time, and your release is the same every single time, then, you know, if you don't do that, it's going to affect the arrow, okay? It's going to affect the arrow. So with this bow, I can be in between, not spine ranges, but I'm in between tip weights. With the Elkhart, for sure, I was talking about it this morning, whether I'm going to do a 125 tip on there or a 160 tip. I can kind of be in between on those. If I do everything perfect with that one, I'm a 125. If I do everything perfect with a 160, I'm shooting weak. Same with this one, right? This is about an inch shorter than the arrows for that Elkhart. It's about a 30-inch arrow. But again, 125 when I do everything right and pull to, you know, like feather to nose. That's my cue to go, right? And again, feather to, that could be different. Remember, we did a video on that. Like, your head can be here or here, right? Anchor, still anchor. But, you know, your bow's here. If your head's all the way here, that's a whole lot different than head's all the way back here or like this, okay? Your anchor isn't necessarily as consistent as you think it is, but at least it's one more thing to be consistent with. But, you know, if I want this arrow between this and a 160, okay, I'm in the same conundrum like I was with the Elkhart, except this is just a shorter arrow. It's a little bit shorter arrow, but if I want it to be perfect flying with a 125, I have to do everything perfectly. If I do everything perfectly, it's a laser beam. If I do everything perfectly with a 160, it flies a little weak, and vice versa, right? If I'm not going to be absolutely perfect, it flies fine with a 160, but then it flies stiff if I short stroke it a little bit or whatever with a 125. And it's enough that it could throw your shot off, like, significantly, right? If you really collapse or really do something stupid. So it's one of those things where you just got to suck it up, and you got to learn to be a better archer, got to be a better shooter. I'm still trying to do that, okay? I look at myself on some videos. I'll watch older videos and I'm doing everything great. Recently, I've been watching some of my videos and I'm literally like collapsed like a taco like this and doing like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. You know, I'm not aligning as well as I can. I'm kind of, instead of, I don't know whether you call this an open stance or closed stance, but I'm doing more one of these, which then shortens up, you know, my draw this way instead of going like this, you know. But again, that's all me, right? 100% me. That's the guy shooting the bow. So if you want the perfect arrow for your given bow, well, you have to do everything else as perfectly as you can on your end of it. And that's the hardest part. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, if you're in between tip weights, shoot a longer arrow or shoot a shorter arrow, vice versa, get it perfect. But no, what I'm saying is, for the length of arrow that it is, I can make both tip weights work. Somewhere in between tip weight, I think I was saying between a 160 and a 125, maybe like Zwickey makes a 135 Delta, right? I think maybe that one might be you know, kind of a good in between, but it's still kind of a band-aid. You know what I mean? It's not solving the problem. All you're doing is saying, hey, because I'm not going to be a perfect shooter, I'm going to, you know, trying to get a good enough tune, rather than, man, if I'm, you know, this bow is shooting like freaking like laser beams with these 125s, and I'm actually fully expanding and all that stuff. But if I don't, it's not. So anyway, just something to think about. Constantly keep pushing. If you're one of these people that constantly chases tune, like I am, okay, fully, I'm in that club, right? I'll stand up and say it. Every once in a while, you got to really like take a step back, look in the mirror, and be like, hey, maybe I should be working on other things like my form and my release and all that stuff, instead of, man, do I, you know, waffle over a, you know, 160 or a 125, right? Pick one, make it work, but then everything else has to be the same and has to be perfect. So anyway, just something to think about, something to kind of, this is a humbling game, this whole archery thing. It's very humbling, because it shows all of your flaws. And if you shoot, you know, especially if you shoot a long bow, and I'm saying long bows because they're the ones that usually have a shorter shelf or narrower shelf, especially with like an ASL or like my Elkhart, or, you know, or even this, it's not the widest, you know, it's got enough shelf on there, but it's, you know, if you shoot something that isn't like an elevated rest and nice and wide and flat and all that stuff, then you really got to be on your game. So yeah, I mean, if you want to shoot one of those bows that's a little bit easier to shoot, hunt with, whatever, absolutely, that's great. And you give yourself a little bit more margin of error. But you know, I kind of want to push myself to be better with these, be better with my other bows. And I think, I don't know, for me, that's the way to up the game, basically. So anyway, let me know your thoughts. I'd like to know what your thoughts are. Are you guys in between between tip weights, between spines? Do you kind of waffle back and forth? And if you are, how far off are you? Are you like, hey, it's different, but it's good enough, versus like, oh man, like if I'm different, I'm going to wound an animal versus making a good shot? So I'd really like to know. Leave a comment below. So, all right, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe. And we're going to come up on turkey season here very soon, depending on when I release this. So hope you guys got your turkey plans. All right, see ya.